All right. I'm hoping we can see that board. I know the light is kind of glaring off of it, so maybe I'll put it in front first before we get started. Just a quick little lesson before we move. Yay. So you can unmute yourself if you have any questions before we get going, but we're going to do some work with our pelvis tonight. It looks like the image might be reversed, but basically you're going to think of your pelvis with landmarks like a clock. So when we get to laying on our back, you're going to be visualizing your pelvis on the back side. So this is your triangular shaped sacrum. Tailbone would be down here. These are your sitting bones. This area down here would be the 6 o'clock mark on your clock. And then of course the top edge near your top rim there, the top of your sacrum would be the 12 o'clock mark. Left side would be 3 o'clock and the right side would be 9 o'clock. So that'll be helpful once we get into the subtle movements that we're going to do tonight. And even if you get a little mixed up, just going to kind of keep moving in a way that feels comfortable and satisfying for you. And I can share that image with you all later for those of you that aren't practicing live. So let's do this. We'll see what time we have left towards the end of class to do a meditation. Joan, how does the sound ratio feel to you, voice versus music? Is it okay? Okay, great. If it gets to be too loud, just give me a heads up. Okay, we're going to start on our back in constructive rest, which is knees bent, feet on the floor. And then you're going to try to shift every joint of your body in some way, just so that you kind of feel like when you land, it feels natural. So maybe roll the ankles a little bit, lift and kind of shift the hips around, wiggle your shoulder blades, turn your head, rotate the wrists, bend the elbows, tuck your chin and lift your chin. And can you find just the neutral amidst all of that shifting and wiggling? And then we'll be the witness to our breathing for a little bit. You don't necessarily have to take in more air. It might be just a matter of slowing down both the inhale and the exhale. But if you feel like you would benefit from a little more, take more. Take what you need. Freedom in the belly and the ribs for plenty of expansion. And then that soft trickling outward. Some people do find that sigh out of the mouth helpful from time to time. So if you feel like you would enjoy that, feel free. And then drop back into your nostril breathing. Connect your awareness to the soles of your feet. And maybe just kind of wiggle the toes around, imagining that you could move each toe by itself away from its partner. Even maybe a little pianoing effect from the pinky finger, the pinky toe, hey Laura, to the big toe. We're just getting started. I have a little tickle in my throat. Please forgive me. Now get in touch with that sacral area. It's a triangular shaped bone at the bottom of your spine. There used to be 5 vertebrae there, but they fused together when you were little. So you can use your tailbone first as a landmark, and then moving up from there, the top edge of your sacrum, and using that clock identification. 6 is the tailbone and 12 is the top. For now, you're just going to let your breath flow naturally and not try to sync anything in terms of breathing and movement. But we are going to start to rock the pelvis from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Now, as you try to press the 12 o'clock area closer to the floor, you're also going to feel your tailbone or the 6 o'clock mark lift just a little bit. And then start to travel so that your 6 o'clock point presses down and maybe the lumbar curve accentuates. Noticing how this little pelvic bowl rocking influences the rest of your spine. You might even start to feel your head nodding a little bit. Let's start pretty slow and continue rolling from 12 to 6. Simple front to back movement. And now just take a pause and notice where your pelvis wants to land naturally. And observe the natural preservation of that lumbar curve if there is one. And let's just take our breath attention there for a few rounds. Inhale towards your back ribs. And a smooth and steady release of air. Well, and then you can take your hands, just for a moment, take your hands on the front rim of your pelvis so you can kind of dig your fingers down into feeling into that front ridge on the right and the left sides. And here maybe we could imagine that we're just rolling a little marble in between those two bony prominences. So on your clock, that would of course be the 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock. So there's just this little tip. And let's try to keep it mostly in the pelvis, although your legs might shift a little bit from side to side as well. Just think micro movement here. Nothing too forced, almost lazy in a way. Subtle movement. If your glutes want to get involved a little bit, that's totally fine. I like to kind of think of pressing my foot down on the side of my pelvis that's lifting just a slight bit. Rolling that marble from left to right and feeling for those points of contact in your sacrum. And then let's find another simple pause. Noticing the belly and its canopy on the in-breath. And then that really soft fading exhale. Simple and supportive. And we're going to start to create a round the clock sensation with these rocks. So keeping in mind the clock, or you could even do north, south, east, and west. And you're going to start with a little tuck under. So that's your posterior tuck. You're pressing the 12 o'clock mark a little bit further into your mat. And then think of rolling that marble towards the left front hip point. And then try to drop your tailbone down and roll the marble towards the 6 o'clock point. And tip your pelvis slightly towards its right side. And then scoop back to that 12 o'clock mark. I'm going to set you free to try to figure out how fast or how slow you want to take these. Until you learn kind of those quadrants and those movements, it might take, and this might take some time for that. So slower at first could be better. But then once you've kind of figured out that coordination, it can be nice to just make it a little bit more up-tempo. Remember, the hips aren't actually leaving the floor here. You're always in some contact with that bony part of the sacrum. Obviously, there's a fair amount of flesh in between those bones and the floor. Some of us might have a little more, some of us might have a little less. So if you have less flesh, a blanket underneath you could provide a little more comfort. So just kind of notice which direction you're going here. And see if you can just reverse it and go the other way. So it's either reversing the motion of the clock, or you could think of that marble rolling the opposite direction as well. And then we'll come back to the pause and the stillness. If you feel like your body needs something, definitely extend yourself that courtesy before we move on. Okay, the next movement is also going to be pretty subtle, and it's kind of a combination of what we've already done, but in your mind, you're going to think of walking. So it's almost like you're going to be walking in place here with your knees bent. As you push your left foot into the ground, that left side might lift a little bit, but it also might push forward a little bit. And then as you switch to the right leg pushing, same thing. And you're just going to walk. In your mind, these small little pushes with your feet and legs and maybe a little bit in the glutes, but the hips stay down. So it's that subtle rocking around on the sacral area. Slight stretch forward with the knees as we visualize our cadence of walking. Maybe you want to walk a little faster. No pressure. You can keep it a slow stroll. Slow down that walking pattern in your mind and in your body. And drop back into stillness. Or find relief in another pose if you're inclined. Because the pelvis and the hips are connected and interplay a lot with each other, this next little bit is going to also expose the hip to some soft movement. Now, we've done stuff like this before, but tonight we're going to frame it in a slightly different pattern. So from this neutral position, let your left knee drop off to the side and roll onto the outside edge of your foot. And we're keeping our feet hip width for this one. We usually go wide for the wipers. And then let your right knee drop to the left, any amount. Doesn't have to be all the way. Pull your right knee back open. And then reset your left leg to the neutral position. We're going to move the legs independently just like that for a couple more rounds. Left knee drops, outer edge of the foot. Right knee drops, inside edge of the right foot. Widen the right. And then return the left. Let's do 3 more like that. Let the left leg complete its movement before the right leg joins in. Let the right leg reverse before the left leg comes back. 2 more sets. Left, right, and right, left. Final one. Okay, the next layer is going to start the same direction. Left leg first, then the right leg. And now you're going to think of rolling that marble from the left to the right and use kind of a little bit of core awareness here to sweep both legs back at the same time. Once again, left leg starts it, right leg moves next, and then we're thinking of rolling on that point of contact, bringing both legs back to center at the same time. Let's do at least 3 more. Left, right, together. Left, right, both legs at once. Last 2 rounds. Establish your own rhythm. Keeping in contact with that sacral area, whether it's the clock or the marble rolling. And once you finish that last one, let's do a little tuck. Both legs can pull in, and you can wrap your arms around your shins or your knees, imprinting your back a little closer to your mat if that feels okay. And a little wiggle side to side could be interesting. And then we'll come back to that initial position. Feet about as wide as the hips, more or less. And we're going to do the walking again. So just walking in place, pushing one foot down. Imagining you are propelling yourself forward. The knee might glide forward just a little bit. And your whole body could be rocking a little bit as well. All the way up to your head. You can keep it that really casual strolling pace, or you can pick it up a little bit and walk a little faster. Okay, let's settle back in. Feet are going to stay hip width. Right leg will move outside first. Let it rotate all the way open onto the outer edge of your foot, and then let your left leg turn in as well. Left leg opens first, all the way. Back to center, then the right leg joins. Right, left, left, right. Keep going. When the pelvis wants to roll, let it roll. Really noticing the contact of your skin on your feet with the surface of your mat. Not just when it rolls to the edge, but when you finally seal your footprint back to the floor. We'll do one more round with the independent movements of the legs, knee dropping, a little tilt at the pelvis. And then the next several repetitions will be right, left, and then both coming back at once. So once again, kind of feeling for that rolling point of contact on the back of your sacrum, as well as just a slight support system of the core to bring both legs back to the middle at the same time. Two to three more, whatever you feel like you need right now. The demand is so low, we're not going to be too picky about counting our repetitions. Once you complete your last cycle, draw your thighs back in towards your torso. Allow your pelvis to rock more towards that 12 o'clock side. The 6 o'clock might lift a little bit, and then you can kind of take it back and forth between the 3 and the 9. Let's take the hands to our knees. Pull the knees slightly away from the ribs. So maybe just as far as your arms will take them until your arms are straight. And then guided by your arms, let's mimic a walking stride here with the knees bent and the feet floating, pushing one leg forward and pulling the other leg towards you. And keep your knees closed and just tuck your thighs in. And then split the other leg out. So we're not actually kicking the feet up. The feet are just kind of staying dangling. Knees closed. And now you're going to start to create some wide circles. Your knees are going to be moving apart, as well as pressing from front to back. So there's this little spiral happening. We did this on Monday in our mobility class as well. If you think your hips would like to do this on their own, you can remove the support of your hands and just play around with some organic, flowy movements in your hips. Maybe every now and then changing the direction. Knees will meet in the middle, and they just kind of pass through and keep that spiraling action. Minimizing muscular effort, but still noticing that baseline support system. Okay, let's finish that off, and we're going to take our left leg straight to the ground, maybe a little wider than our hip. Right leg is still going to stay bent, And I think it makes sense here to heel toe our right foot just a little wider than the hip, or at least as wide as your hip. And then this movement's in 3 parts, actually 4 parts. So first things first, we're going to draw the right leg up without the use of the arms, so flexing at your hip. Then set your foot back down. Press into the mat with your foot, but lift the right side of your pelvis to roll that marble off to the left. So your whole right bum is coming off. This is one we've done before. And then roll back to a level pelvis. Once again, flex your hip, pull it in, keep your knee bent. Press your foot down, and then lift and pivot right to the left. Roll back down. We're going to get the head involved in this next one. So draw your knee towards your chest, plant your foot. Now as you lift the right side and tip it to the left, turn your head to your right. And then back to center. Let's do it again. Nice and slow, pull the leg up, stamp it down, lift the right, tip it left, and turn your head to the right. Keep going. Let's do 3 more. Just the slightest hint of a twist in the spine as we try to lift that side and roll it to the left. Last 2. Final one. As you lift the right side of your pelvis and tilt it towards the left, we're going to pause. Turn your head as far to the right as you're comfortable with. And then pause here and give your glutes a squeeze on that right side. And breathe for 5, 4, 3, 2, and slowly stretch all the way out like a starfish. Both legs can go straight. Arms can fly wide. Find neutral in your neck. Breathe. Leave your right leg long. Bend your left knee just a touch wider than your hip maybe. Press your foot down, and your arms can just organize however they want to. Hip flexion and knee flexion. So it's just lifting the knee as far as it wants to go. Feeling into your hip for that. Seal your foot. Lift the left side and tip it towards the right side, rolling the marble off your mat to the right. Lowering down slow to repeat again. Tuck. Release. Lift it and tip it. On your next one, you can maybe think about adding that neck rotation if it feels okay. Pelvis is tipping to the right, but your gaze will roll to the left at the same time. Maybe synchronizing it. At least 2 more. Last one. And then we're going to find that starfish shape again. Heels set slightly wider than your hips. And now this one is a little bit different, and I'm not sure if I've taught this one before in these classes. So basically you're going to think of this as an ankle movement, but your whole body is going to be affected by it. So it's a simple dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, but you're rocking your whole body as you kind of flick back and forth. Pull your toes towards your shin and then push your toes forward. So you're kind of almost scrubbing on the back of your head, your shoulder blades, and the sacral area. Keep going. It's kind of like a pushing and a pulling, alternating back and forth. And then start to slow that rock down and drop into stillness for about 5 long breaths. Try to go 4 counts in and 4 counts out at a minimum. And if you're feeling adventurous, you might try to hold your breath either after the exhale, after the inhale, or both. Up next, we're going to work our simple restorative bridge, drawing from our yin practice. So you'll want something to set under your sacrum. Could be a blanket rolled up, a towel rolled up, yoga block if it's soft enough for you, a little bolster perhaps. Find your feet, energize your glutes just enough to get your hips off the ground, and land that object in whatever direction feels right on that big triangular piece of your sacrum. And then you can kind of wiggle around a little bit, thinking of those landmarks. A slight tuck, a slight untuck, a little tip to the right, a little tip to the left. And then see where you land naturally. And we're going to be here for a little bit. And the next layer is going to be to experiment with straightening one or both legs. And we're going to reserve the legs up pose for a little bit later. So you're free to explore stretching legs out to the ground one at a time. Or maybe we just stay here for a little bit and ground your feet with your knees bent. I actually like to slowly creep my legs out, like an inch at a time, every so often. Less shocking to my system, I guess. If you're working towards a straighter leg scenario, you can just continue to make those changes. Got about another minute and a half before we head to that inversion. So there's time to play with. Okay, so if your legs are straight, slowly rebend them and reset your feet. Now just the left leg. Keep your knee bent for now. Lift your left leg off the floor towards your trunk. Just stop when you feel a little resistance. And then move your leg away from you, maybe about halfway to the floor. We're working the left leg in a small range of motion, tucking in, and then gliding it away. Not all the way to the ground, but maybe a third of the way or halfway down. And we'll do the same thing, mobilizing the right hip as the left foot stabilizes. Nice and slow. And then for your legs up pose, sometimes it's necessary to slightly adjust the block a little bit higher. And then you can get your legs vertical. Don't worry if the knees don't go all the way straight, but just get your legs in a position where they feel inverted. And then maybe your ankles want a little love. You can turn them, roll them, point and flex, or just simplify and pause. Creating less holding in the shoulders, your neck, your jaw, and the rest of your face, around your eyes, cheeks, and temples. Now, if you're super content with the stillness, you can stay. But otherwise, we're going to make some micro walking movements with our legs inverted. Just barely splitting the legs, maybe 1 or 2 foot distance away from each other. And then really slow motion, let them pass each other and then split the other direction. So this is just barely moving the pelvis as well. Maybe a slight shift in those sacral iliac joints. That's a really stable joint. There's not a lot of movement there anyway. So this might be not even noticeable to you. Slow walk on the ceiling. And then you can bend your knees and let your heels come a little closer to your seat. And if it feels all right, think of drawing your knees even closer to your body as your tailbone slightly curls off of that block even more. So you feel like you're in a slight cannonball shape, but that block is still wedged underneath you. And I personally like to release out of this 1 leg at a time. You could do it with 2 legs at a time. Maybe a little bit more core effort to do that. And just reset your feet. Find the support of your backside. Elevate your hips enough to get rid of your block. And then once you land yourself back to the ground, I'm going to explore a little spine twist. My preference is to hold the block between my knees, shift my pelvis a little to the right, and then let my legs stack off to the left with that block. But you might like a different sort of twist with your legs wrapped up or staggered in some way. I'm just going to build any kind of a spine twist that feels nice. And then we'll have a little time here. If you feel like you need more time on this side, you're welcome to stay. That was about 2 minutes. There's no rush though. Maybe you need a little reset in between sides. That could be a bridge or some of those little clock rocks or some of the knee drops, wipers. And then we'll find that opposite side spine twist your way. And settle in. Your next step will be to decide how you want to spend the remainder of your practice. We'll do a little bit of a kind of a mini nidra, where I will call out parts of your body and you'll just try to get them even more relaxed. Fidget until you are satisfied with your resting pose. And bring your awareness to your breathing. And if you're tempted to change anything about your breathing, go ahead, but maybe it's also fine just to sense it and observe it. Let it be what it is. Sensing that soothing softness, continuous waves. And then guide your attention to the soles of your feet. Sense your toes and the small spaces between your toes. Feel your heels, ankles, the front side of your lower leg, your calves, notice your kneecaps, the space behind your knees, the top side of your thighs, the back of your thighs. Both legs together. Feel your sacrum. And the right side of your pelvis. And travel around to the front side and feel into your right hip joint. Guide your awareness to the back left pelvis. Now into the front on the left, deep within, to feel the connection of left thigh to left pelvis at your hip joint. And sense your pelvis as a whole, heavy, but weightless, still and satisfied. Sense the curve in your lumbar spine. Notice the soft swell at your belly, rising and falling. Breath inward, breath outward. Upper back, shoulder blades, right rib cage and chest, left rib cage and chest, sternum, the shield of the heart. Sense your heart. Breath surrounds. Travel your awareness to your hands, the right and the left palm. Sense all of your fingers and the space between them. Feel your wrists. And the dual bones of each lower arm. Elbow hinges. Upper arms. Shoulder socket. Collarbones. The hollow of your throat. Gentle friction with your breathing. And feel the root of your tongue. And the tip of your tongue. Awareness of your teeth and gums. And your lips, bottom and top. Jaws. a pair of nostrils, eyelids, eye globes, eyebrows, temples, awareness of your ears, noticing without seeking a sound. Feel your scalp. And then gather your awareness to the middle of your forehead. Go a little deeper there. Back to the middle of your head. And sense the weight of your head. Grounded. Whole body rest. Whole body awareness. Unrushed breathing. And full body hush. Receive the following affirmations. Take what you need and let the rest go. I am whole and complete as I am. I accept myself as I am. I am free and clear of all that has happened to me in the past. I have nothing to prove. I have nothing to cling to. I am at ease. I am content. I am valuable. I am loved. If you are called to create your own I am statement, do it now and recite it to yourself a few times. Make it robust and powerful. And then let's nourish that seed of intention with some conscious breathing. Inhaling for 4, 3, 2. Exhaling 4, 3, 2. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale together. Exhale together. And just breathe comfortably. And start to circulate your awareness throughout your body again as a way to bring it back to life, soft and slow and with compassion. Never a rush. Keep it simple. If you feel the urge to find cannonball or lay on your side for a short time, like fetal pose, you could do that now. And if you're already up in your seat, maybe you just kind of work through some shoulder mobilizations or neck stretches. You could do some spine side stretching or twisting. What's your body calling for? We become better listeners through this slow, soothing practice. Let's take one last pause in the seat. Drop the eyes closed one more time. Go within. Assessing without judgment. Listening without creating unnecessary dialogue. Being led by our breathing to carry us through what's left of our day. Big thanks for showing up for yourself today. It was my honor to guide you. Namaste.